Hey there, it's Jon Ray, and today I'm going to be doing a mystical interpretation of Genesis 1 through 5. These are the very first verses in the Bible where creation begins with light. But this isn't about the creation of the physical universe. This is about how you begin again, how you remember who you are, and how you can step into your power as a conscious creator. In this series, we're not reading the Bible as religion or history. We're reading it as a mystical manual for how reality actually works, psychologically, emotionally, and energetically. Neville Goddard said, "Your imagination is God." And Federico Fagan, who's the physicist who helped build the first microprocessor, teaches that consciousness doesn't come from matter. It actually gives rise to it, which means your world doesn't just happen to you. It actually happens through you. But, and this is a pretty important point, manifestation in this way is very rarely an overnight success. Yes, if you followed Neville Goddard's teachings, you know that when you assume an identity, when you assume something to be true, those assumptions will start to work in the background, creating for you immediately. But your old patterns, the beliefs that you've practiced for years, are still playing themselves out. And that's why it's important to spend time with the mystical Bible, because the Bible is not just a code book for how to manifest stuff. It's actually a manual for how to become the kind of person who can hold and have the wisdom required to manifest big, beautiful, lasting things that are birthed into the world through you. So this first story in the Bible shows you how that process of accumulating wisdom and getting what you want begins. And we'll just go verse by verse. So it starts Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And this isn't a timestamp, so to speak. In the beginning is that moment that you wake up from your autopilot and you remember, oh, right, I'm not just reacting to life. I'm actually creating it. I have choice here. And God in this verse isn't just some external man in the sky with a beard. It's your awareness. It's your I amness, where heavens are the unseen. They're your beliefs, your assumptions, your imagination. And anytime we're going through the mystical Bible, earth is the scene. That's your results, your reality. So what this verse is saying is that every external result begins with an internal choice. So think about a time when maybe a business idea came to you. At first, that idea was nothing but a spark. It didn't even have language yet. It was just kind of a feeling inside of you. But as you played with it, you started to get excited. You started to see things in your mind. And eventually, something showed up in your physical world that matched that spark. And that's what this verse is about. Heaven, which is our inner world, creates earth, which is our outer experience. But remember, your earth isn't going to vanish overnight. You're going to have to live in the new heaven long enough for the soil of your life to reflect that vision. And so in Genesis 1:2, it says, the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was on the surface of the deep. God's spirit was hovering over the waters. And this is that messy middle. You've awakened, but nothing's really changed yet. Formless and empty is your current life not really matching your new vision yet. And darkness in this passage doesn't mean evil. It's just the space before clarity comes in. It's your unformed potential. And so the deep represents your subconscious, powerful, but directionless without some kind of instruction. This is your imagination, your conscious thinking, your free will acting and programming your subconscious. And God's spirit hovering, that's this sacred pause when you start to feel a shift building, even though nothing externally has really moved yet. And you've probably had days like this in your creative life. You're between gigs or projects, or you're still seeking some kind of clarity. You don't really know what the next thing for you is, but there's something in you stirring. You can't really go back to the old you. And yet the new you isn't formed yet. And this is that moment. You're hovering over the waters of your own potential, transmuting it into some kind of creative potential that you can birth into linearity and actualize. And here's really where the art of manifestation begins. You have to learn how to stay connected to the new vision of you, your version of heaven, before it is visible on earth. When we get into Genesis 1:3, God says, "Let there be light," and there was light. And so this is your first bold move. It's not a move in the external world, but in consciousness. God said is you making a declaration. It's a claim or a decision. You said, I am clear. I am valuable. I am building something new. And then what happened? There was light, not in the form of immediate results, but in the form of felt awareness. You've probably experienced this shift, in the past during meditation or journaling, or even, as you're on a walk thinking about something. One moment you feel uncertain about the thing that you're exploring, and then all of a sudden you make a clear inner choice and something clicks, it shifts in you. And that's the light. That's the clarity. That's the yes. But this doesn't mean that the external world changes immediately just because you made this new choice. It means that there's a pattern inside of you that started to change. And now you have to nurture that light while all of your old patterns burn themselves out and fade out. So then we go into Genesis 1:4. God saw the light and that it was good. God divided the light from the darkness. So God saw means you noticed that this shift happened inside of you. You felt the clarity, you felt the peace, you felt that there was a breakthrough, and then it was good. You accepted it. You didn't dismiss the feeling as wishful thinking. You weren't cynical. You claimed it. And when it talks about dividing the light from the darkness, that's you developing discernment. That's the wisdom to recognize, oh, right, this thought moves me forward where that other thought that I was thinking would pull me back. This thought gives me energy where that other thought drains me of energy. And so this is the moment that you begin to watch your inner world like a gardener, and you're tending to your thoughts. In manifestation, this is really one of the most underrated skills. It's the ability to tell when you're in a new identity and when your old self shows back up and is trying to run the show again. Because it's not like you move into one identity and then you're always there. Your old self is always trying to claw you back. And living in the light requires a certain level of practicing your own discernment. because the darkness, which is your old stories, or even your subconscious stories that you didn't even realize were there, those are still going to be calling your name, especially when you haven't practiced a new vision for very long. But you're in a good place now, because now you can use discernment to tell the difference between the two. And then that brings us into Genesis 1:5. God called the light day, and he called the darkness night. There was evening and there was morning, and this was the first day. So what this means is, when you name something, you own it. You're claiming it. And day in this passage is living clarity, power, identity, where night is confusion, delay, that looping of the unknown. These are the subconscious messages that you may not even realize are running the show. And it's also the opportunity for you to embed the subconscious, the feminine womb of yourself, embed that with new programming using imagination. And so that's really the key here. Evening always comes first. You always begin in the unseen. You start in stillness and silence. And if you're conscious, imagination is how you program this darkness, how you program the subconscious flow that is directing how reality renders itself. And then comes morning. And the morning is results and insights and physical form. And this verse reminds us, the world won't change instantly just because you had a new vision. But if you can keep naming the light, if you can keep calling your new state good, your life will start to reflect it externally eventually. You just have to keep at it. You have to keep practicing it. You have to keep going to the imagination gym. You're building these creative cycles inside of yourself, and day by day, those cycles will become your reality. So let's close this out with a prayer practice, and we'll call this one Speak the Light. Before you make a move in the outer world, you have to name who you are in your inner world. And there's a simple way to do that. So right now, I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to think about a part of your life that feels foggy. Maybe it's your next move. Maybe it's your income, your purpose, something that you're seeking deeper clarity on. And I want you to see that as a dark canvas. And as you're looking there, hovering over that dark canvas, I want you to become ready to choose something new, ready to choose to be a receiver. And then I want you to say out loud, or say in your mind, let there be light on this area of my life. So there's this dark canvas. I project onto that canvas, or maybe I see myself writing on that canvas, my income, my career, my business. And then I say, let there be light on this area of my life. Maybe you imagine yourself bringing a lantern to that and actually bringing light to that word, to that area. Let there be light on who I'm becoming. Let there be light on the next aligned step for me. And just let one clear image or feeling rise up. Find that place where you actually believe that information is making its way to you. And maybe it actually comes to you in this meditation as you sit there and just kind of sit with this idea that you're calling in light. This is your co-creative ability with God. You can call God in to put light on anything. And just like you might prompt ChatGPT, that's how we want to learn how to pray. We want to give instructions for where the light should go and then expect a response. And we don't want to rush this, but when light comes to us, when that good idea comes to us, we want to make sure that we go, ah, yes, it is good. And that's the beginning. you're going to want to return to that light, that good idea, that vision that made you feel it. And you return to that again and again as you externalize it. You have to internalize it to externalize it. That's how you plant the seed, and how the seed begins to grow, and how your subconscious begins to create this on autopilot. You return to that heavenly state, that aha moment over and over and over again. So in our next video, we'll explore how to make space inside of yourself. You'll learn how to separate thought from emotion, reaction from wisdom, and how to build the firm foundation where your next reality, your new reality, your bigger reality can start to take shape. To get an email when the next video is released, or to request a Bible verse interpretation, go to BibleMystic.com. And if you've ever stood in the dark waiting for clarity to break through, like, comment, and subscribe, and share down in the comments, what part of your life are you ready to speak light into? Bye, y'all. We'll see you in the next one.